I heard what happened here last week. Kat, how you stand up to give a talk and your skirt falls down? How does that, I don't even want to know. Don't even tell me. Don't even tell me. You know, Kat, you and I have talked about a lot of ways to bring more people here on Sunday mornings. But I'm pretty sure I nixed that idea. We'll see if it works. So I don't know what you're expecting this morning. But I checked and double-checked. Everything's fastened and buttoned and strapped in. Nothing's going to fall out or fall down this morning. But we're happy. We're happy people doing happy things. You got to think that all of that emotion, that energy, and talking about happiness all month, that had to come into expression as a happy experience like that. Thanks for taking care of that for me. So, but last month our theme was happy and grateful. Happy Thanksgiving, and I gave you all a boatload of tools and techniques, and I hope that you're accumulating even more to help to lift you out of unhappiness into happiness. We learned about our fabulous, wondrously made body temples that are made for the express purpose of helping us to have a blissful experience of life. And we talked about our magnificent brains, that our brains actually possess and produce happiness-enhancing chemicals. So if you're feeling a little bit down, laughter releases endorphins into your system, or if you're serotonin, that is released when you're expressing gratitude, not just once a year, but every day, and that helps to give you a peaceful, blissful attitude. Or oxytocin, the bonding hormone, when you shake hands or hug someone or give a gift, that actually increases your self-esteem and lifts your happiness. Or celebrating. When you celebrate reaching those goals, fulfilling those desires, or meeting those needs, call a friend up and invite them out to Starbucks and say, it's on me, we're celebrating, I'm a day older, so yippee for me. And that will release dopamine into your system that elevates your mood. All of those things. We take the highest and the best of the most recent understanding, and we glean the best from it, so that we can, using the power of our wills, make choices and begin to create atmospheres and experiences and attitudes of happiness in our lives. And then on a deeper level, we talked about how our deep-seated beliefs and view of life and other people has a profound effect on our happiness in life. And again, that's a choice that we all make. That's a power that we all have. If you choose to have the view that life is difficult and depressing, if you choose to believe in a God that's angry and vengeful and exclusive, well, that actually, your body responds to that and activates the fear center in our brains, which is responsible for stress and anxiety and other negative emotions like anger and resentment and revenge, and it plays out in your behavior. Conversely, if you choose to have the view of life that life is a blissful experience, and that God is a God of love and compassion and inclusiveness, then, well, that plays out in your body too. And it actually activates the frontal lobe, which is responsible for the higher mental processes. And it plays out in your experience of life. So again, we take all of this information, we learn about ourselves and our body, and then, using the power of will, then we can make changes in our thoughts and in our beliefs. Yes, those deep-seated beliefs that we've held on for a long time can be changed. But you notice when we're talking about happiness, it's all about circumstances. It's all about responding or reacting to our outer experiences. But what if you could be happy regardless of the externals? What if you could be happy all the time? What if it wasn't always an up and down kind of situation? What if we weren't constantly having to make those adjustments? Oh, I'm feeling kind of down. What can I do? I know I can watch a funny movie. That'll make me feel better. Or I can think of something that makes me laugh, like Cat's skirt falling down. And that'll make me feel better. But what if it wasn't always the back and forth? What if it wasn't this or that or up or down? Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes having to work at it. What if you could be happy regardless of the externals, regardless of whether the sun was shining and the grass was green and there was money in the bank and you were feeling no pain and everything was hunky-dory? What if you could have a deeper happiness, a sustained happiness? I'd call that joy. And Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of the Unity movement, called it a lasting joy. You see, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is, J.D. Salinger actually said this, happiness is a solid and joy is liquid. Happiness has to do with our external circumstances, more of the earthly experiences and material objects, whereas joy is more soul-satisfying and has to do with the inner experience, even the ethereal or spiritual nature or experience. Somebody that wins $10,000 in the lottery has a lot of happiness. But someone that maybe creates a product and develops a business and really invests themselves into it and they make their first $10,000, they have a deep sense of satisfaction and joy. So happiness is like the outward expression of excitement. Yippee! Get to go to Disneyland. Yippee! Whereas joy is more of an inner feeling of peace and bliss and harmony and contentment. There's a story that's told of a Buddhist monk that went on a cruise. And there he was on the deck of the cruise ship and in his monk garb and gentle smile on his face, looking very monk-like. You know the other people getting on the cruise, how it is. Woohoo! Party! Come on, let's have some drinks. Come on, look at this. All-you-can-eat buffet. And the monk says, no, I'm quite content where I am. Later on, the people say, come on with us. Look, there's a casino. Win lots of cash. Cha-ching, jackpot. The monk says, no, I'm fine right here, enjoying the ocean breeze on my face, watching the sunset. Well, as the cruise progressed, the ship hit some turbulent waters, and it was rocking the ship back and forth. And back and forth. And the people were so upset and they were just terrified. They said, oh, I'm so frightened. Help, help, I'm so afraid. Aren't you afraid, Mr. Monk? And the monk says, no, I'm fine. All is well. All is well. So we learn quite a bit from that little story. One is that we don't have to participate in that which we do not want. We don't have to participate in the feelings or the thoughts or even the reactions or the experience that we do not want. But also we're shown two totally different responses to the same situation. One response totally influenced by the externals. The other not deterred from their joy and bliss at all. Wouldn't that be great? So talking about back and forth, there's the opposite of happiness is unhappiness. So you and I have tools and techniques to help to lift us out of that unhappiness into happiness. The opposite of joy, however, is depression. I don't know if you've dealt with depression in your life. I know I have. And just as joy is a deeper happiness, depression is a much, much deeper unhappiness. And it calls us to go deeper in our understanding, deeper in our spiritual understanding, to find a remedy, to find an answer. So how do we find this lasting joy? How do we gain this lasting joy that Charles Fillmore talked about? How do we eradicate sadness and depression from our lives and live lives of joy? Well, you might be familiar with the teachings of Jewish mysticism called the Kabbalah. And one of the main tenets of the Kabbalah that's all throughout it is joy, and that we're intended to live joyful lives. In fact, adherents of the Kabbalah are urged to eradicate sadness and depression from their lives in order that they might live lives of what they call simcha, joy. And there's an interesting line of reasoning for doing this that I think will be of interest to you and helpful to you. Here's the way it goes. Their belief is it has to do with two concepts. First of all, that everything that transpires, not just what happens to humans, but everything that happens to inanimate objects as well, is of God. That everything is constantly connected to God, and there is only one. Does that sound okay to you? The second concept is God is good, constantly good, all the time. Does that sound okay to you? So according to the teachings of Kabbalah, understanding these, actually a deep, profound spiritual awareness of those two concepts leads directly to simcha, joy. You see, if everything is of God and God is good, then everything that happens is good. Something to contemplate this week, huh? In fact, there's a story in the Talmud about a Rabbi Akiva, that went on a journey. And he took with him a donkey for his baggage, a rooster so he could wake up early in the morning, and a lantern so he could study late at night. And so he goes off on his journey. It's starting to get dark, and he's approaching a village. So he goes into the village to ask for lodging. He knocks on the first door, and they won't let him in. But Rabbi Akiva is not upset because he knows and embodies the truth that everything God does is for the good. So he goes to the next door, and still he's offered no hospitality. But yet his response remains the same. Everything God does is for the good. He goes to every door in that village, and still he's offered no lodging. But he remains solid. Everything God does is for the good. So he has no choice but to camp in a forest on the outskirts of town. So he goes out to camp, he gets his camp all set up, and then a lion devours his donkey. Another predator kills his rooster, and a huge wind comes through and blows out his fire. So even though all these events are happening, still, everything God does is for the good. The next morning he wakes up and he finds that a Roman army had attacked the village in the middle of the night and taken all the people captive. Had he been a guest in one of their houses, he too would have been taken captive. And if his donkey and his rooster were still alive, well, the braying and the crowing would have alerted the army to his presence out in the forest. And had his candle still been burning, they would have seen the light. So, everything God does is for the good. So we see two concepts at work in that story. Everything is of God, and God is good. But we're not talking about just intellectualizing spiritual concepts and understanding them with our minds. No, we're talking about the necessity of internalizing these concepts so that we might live lives of simcha, joy. As I said earlier, Charles Fillmore talks about a lasting joy in his book, Dynamics for Living. And he writes, "True and lasting joy arises from within. The nature of the deep inner life is revealed only to those who spiritually penetrate into its source. Then you find a great subconscious well of living water will begin to bubble up in your soul." Doesn't that sound good? He goes on to say, "You will come to know that hitherto you have been living in the shallows of life instead of in its mighty depths. You will be blessed with the knowledge of the unity of all things, and a great peace and harmony will well up within you." So Charles Fillmore is talking about diving deeper, not just living in our minds, but living in the depth of our souls, living with a deep spiritual awareness and understanding that leads to peace, like John read about in our daily word, a peace that's unshakable and that leads to a true and lasting joy all the time. A little bit further in Charles Fillmore's book, Dynamics for Living, he says this: "It is impossible to found a lasting stronghold within on anything less than the understanding that," you want to say it with me? "God is a God of joy." True and lasting joy comes from understanding and embodying the truth that God is a God of joy. May it be so, and so it is. So we always go into a meditation time after our talk, just to allow you some time to contemplate these thoughts